Clement was born in Richmond, California on October 8, 1922. He joined the military in August 12, 1944. He began boot camp training in Camp Roberts in Central California. Though he was originally assigned to the Airborne Division to go to the Pacific War, he went to Europe because the United States needed more soldiers. He was assigned to the USS America, where it was attacked by a torpedo before reaching its destination in Glasgow, Scotland. Once they were docked, the soldiers were transported by train to Liverpool, England. They left Liverpool, traveling to Le Havre, France, in January 1945.
The Lord works. At that time, the Germans had broke through. You heard of the Battle of the Bulge?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, we were in a bad position. In Bastogne, there in Belgium, they were held there, and we were trying to free them, because they had already broken the lines. They had broken our lines, so they needed every soldier. So what do? They send me over. They send me over to Germany.
The Battle of the Bulge began on December 16, 1944, and lasted until January 25, 1945. It was the last major German offensive campaign of World War II, in a surprise attack that caught the Allied forces completely off guard, taking advantage of the severe weather as well as the Allies' overconfidence from prior victories. The Germans were trying to drive a wedge between the American and British armies in France. They fell short but still managed to create a bulge in the American lines 50 miles wide and 70 miles deep, giving the battle its name. The United States Army suffered over 100,000 casualties, the majority of which occurred in the first week of the battle. This called for a second round of troops to be sent in, including Clement, to replace and relieve the others. In January of 1945, the Allied forces led by General Patton defeated the Germans.
We were up on the Ruhr Valley, and we were going along with our battalion, and then we were told to dismount immediately. And because the Germans were up on high ground, they had these 88s, which were the most accurate. They make direct hits on tanks. And what you know, that we were told that right away, we had our little shovels. We started digging our holes, foxholes, and when we had them all dug, we laid on them, and nothing happened for a long time. So everybody, I don't know, they start passing the Stars and Stripes, was an Army newspaper, and in order for me to read it, I had to come out of my foxhole and get on top, and I began, and all of a sudden, without warning, I had no warning whatsoever. All I did, I looked up and I saw the missile come down, and I saw it hit, but it was a dud. See, so how the Lord has already kept you from harm.
Clement was promoted in the field from private first class to corporal, and then to the rank of T4 sergeant, or technician 4th grade. This was one of 3 United States Army technician ranks which initially shared the same insignia as a sergeant, but were later distinguished by a block T imprinted below the standard chevrons.
Everything is told you to do. You don't have a mind of your own. Everything they tell you, you have to do. But later on, more and more, you come to a point where you can do a little more on your own, but at first, you do everything they tell you. Absolutely. And you get used to it. Yes, sir. No, sir. Salute. You got to salute officers. You have to respect them. And you eat. Here's another thing. You don't eat with them. You eat, You're just an uncom. You're nobody. They're the ones that tell you.
In June of 1945, Clem saw an advertisement in the Stars and Stripes newspaper to be a violinist in the U.S. Army Symphony Orchestra in Europe. Because of this, he packed his bags and headed to Munich, Germany. This was a huge privilege as Clement played for artists like Tony Bennett and Grace Moore. This opportunity took him to places like Frankfurt, Munich, Berlin, London, Vienna, and Rome.
Clement tells us of his encounters with General George S. Patton, a United States general known for his fierce determination and ability to lead soldiers, including at the Battle of the Bulge, where Clement served.
He was quite a, 245s there on holsters, Patton. 245s there. And another thing, that one night they were going to have the Czech opera, Prodenia na Vesta, and they had given him the best place. And guess what? He couldn't make it. So what? And I came that night with my wife to be, and what did they do? Give me his place, and we sat there in the best place. Germany. I also didn't mention this. I got to see the Nuremberg trial. I got to see Goering. I got to see all those all those war criminals.
The Nuremberg trials were a series of trials held between 1945 and 1949, prosecuting German military leaders, political officials, industrialists, and financiers for crimes they had committed during World War II.
As far as we could. So then they sent us down to Czechoslovakia. We're down with Patton. So we came down south a little bit, but in Germany, Central Europe, and there we were there helping. And guess what? The Lord had another mission for me. I met the young lady that the Lord had for me already. I met her there in Czechoslovakia. She was only 16 when I met her.
Bożena and Clem were happily married on January 10, 1947. When Bożena was only 9 years old, the Germans took over Czechoslovakia and Pilsen, where she lived under Nazi rule, undergoing the painful realities of war. Later, in 1948, the Soviet Union captured control in Czechoslovakia and turned it into a communist social republic.
Oh yeah, one thing the Russians had taken over when I got married. They had taken over, and they had to, her father had to prove that she never had anything to do with the German Nazis in order to be able to get permission for her daughter. And she was the last one they allowed to leave there. After that, the Iron Curtain came down. Nobody could leave. Nobody. The Russians put the Iron Curtain.
The Iron Curtain was a political, military, and ideological boundary dividing Europe into two areas from the end of World War II in 1945 until the end of the Cold War in 1991. The Soviet Union formed this to seal off itself and its dependent Eastern and Central European allies from open contact with the West and other non-communist areas. Luckily, Clement's wife, Bożena, was able to escape from Czechoslovakia before the Iron Curtain was intact.
Questions. But you see, in those days, life was different. Even, let me tell you something. I don't know Rodriguez said he was. Even when they were building these tract homes, it was built for the GIs. What do? I go to the office, I like this home, I want this home. And what do they tell me? Because of color of my skin, they say, we can't sell to you. But you know why they had to sell? Because my wife was an Anglo. That's the only reason they sold it to me. But they were not even because of my color. And I remember when I was a young kid, too, I went to apply for work at Lockheed. That was starting, and because my parents were born in Mexico, they would not allow me to work. So all these things have changed. But I just give you the idea of the kind of world you lived in those days. It doesn't exist today. So I'm very happy and very honored to have given you this. But you know, sometimes you have to make decisions all the time, but there are some momentous decisions that will govern your life in the future.